Hello and welcome back to Look Movie Recaps. Today, we are going to recap a 2023 movie titled Little Dixie. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. The movie begins by showing the execution of a Mexican cartel member named Juan Miguel Prado, who was accused of murdering several civilians in a very sadistic manner. Richard, the recently accused corrupt governor of the United States, witnesses the execution. Juan Miguel was informed that the state of Oklahoma has sentenced him to death and was asked if he had any last words before the execution. After saying his last words, he got executed. In another scene, we meet our protagonist, Doc Alexander, a former member of the Special Forces. He now works as a facilitating agent, or someone who facilitates a ceasefire between the governor and the Mexican cartels. Doc fears that Governor Richard's decision to execute Miguel could trigger retaliatory actions by the Mexican cartel, potentially causing further chaos. Billy, a government staff member who communicates with both Doc and Governor Richard, also makes an appearance. Doc is surprised to see the news that Richard deliberately publicized Miguel's execution, so that he would be considered a hero and his corruption case would be forgotten. However, without realizing it, this action would inevitably lead the Prado family, also known as the Mexican cartel, to demand revenge. Sure enough, news of the execution reaches Miguel's older sister, who is the wife of a cartel boss, Lo. As a big boss, Lo tries to be wise and not take revenge. However, unlike his violent, brutal and sadistic half-brother Cuko, he refuses to accept the humiliation of his brother's execution. Let's return to Doc, who has a daughter named Nell. Due to his divorce from his wife Carla, the two of them rarely see each other. After meeting with his beloved daughter, Doc goes to one of the Mexican cartel's headquarters. As a facilitator or special agent like the CIA, Doc had many acquaintances from various lines, whether it was the government, the criminal environment, or the streets. As such, Doc's name is well known in the criminal underworld. In a conversation with one of the people in charge at the headquarters, Doc learns about an act of revenge that Cuko will carry out without the permission and approval of Lo, the big boss of the Mexican cartel. Doc immediately went to Billy to warn Governor Richard that there would be an act of revenge that would harm the governor's family or those closest to him. They both went to see Governor Richard that night. However, Richard remains stubborn and insists on continuing with the plan to eliminate the cartel and publicize the action so that people know that he is a hero and a brave governor. In reality, all of this was merely a facade to conceal his suspected involvement in corruption. The issue is quite a headache for Doc, who is caught in the middle between the two camps, the Mexican cartel and Governor Richard. A war between the two camps will undoubtedly corner him. Initially, Governor Richard struck a peace agreement with the Mexican cartel, agreeing to deposit money monthly in exchange for a license to conduct business in the United States. However, once the Mexican cartels exposed his rottenness and corruption, Governor Richard abruptly shifted his stance and became determined to combat them. He didn't realize that many of his subordinates would become victims of his plan. Sure enough, what Doc fears happens. When Doc arrives at Billy's house, he finds Billy and her daughter dead on the bed with bullet holes in their heads. Naturally, Cuko, who had already arrived in the United States, orchestrated all this. Doc goes to the cartel's business headquarters to receive his monthly allowance and tries to calm things down for a while. He also introduces himself to Cuko, the half-brother of the Mexican cartel's big boss. Cuko just came in from Mexico. Just then, special forces under Governor Richard's orders raided the area. Trapped between the two camps, Doc must intervene and decimate all the special forces to ensure his own safety. After slaughtering all the special forces, Doc immediately leaves the place. Simultaneously, Cuko notices numerous special force corpses scattered around. Recognizing Doc's uniqueness prompts him to understand his potential for manipulation. On the other hand, Governor Richard has just arrived to hold a press conference following his successful raid, during which he has seized a significant amount of evidence, including money and drugs. Clerk then informs Governor Richard about the death of Billy and this morning's call from Doc, warning Governor Richard not to proceed with his press conference, coincided with the discovery of Billy, one of his employees, dead. However, the governor went ahead with the press conference, even live on television, not caring that many of his men would fall victim to his image-building act. Clark quickly became the next victim when Cuko, who was already in the car, tied him to the seat. He put the burnt cloth into the petrol tank and eliminated him. Meanwhile, someone who turned out to be Cuko called Doc the next morning. Apparently, Cuko had kidnapped Nell, his daughter. This obviously made Doc emotional, but Doc tried to remain calm, not overreacting, even casually listening to what Cuko's purpose was. Evidently, Cuko desired to have Governor Richard's head delivered to him, just the head. Confused, Doc immediately agreed to bring Governor Richard's head to Cuko. However, prior to this, Doc inquired about Nell's favorite call as a means of verifying his daughter's existence. It turned out that Doc's favorite call to Nell, his beloved daughter, was Little Dixie. Doc feels even more guilty when he informs his ex-wife about their kidnapped daughter. The ex-wife asks Doc to bring back their Little Dixie immediately. Not wanting to waste any time, Doc went straight to an arms supplier to buy some necessary equipment, then went to the house of one of his colleagues, a fellow special agent, to find information about Cuko, the man who had kidnapped his daughter. The man claimed not to know Cuko, but rumor had it that Cuko was a man who was notorious for causing trouble, including assassinations, bombings, massacres, and other vicious acts. Cuko is a very dangerous man. He won't hesitate to kill Nell, his daughter, if Doc doesn't bring Governor Richard's head tonight. Meanwhile, someone spots Cuko in a bar. Cuko immediately takes a prostitute to a motel room. The scene moves to Governor Richard's residence. In addition to being corrupt and an image expert, he is also having an affair with one of the officials, committing immorality while his children and wife are being secured to their hometown. Unbeknownst to Richard, Doc has just arrived and swiftly dispatches each guard. Including his mistress, while Richard is in the bathroom. Governor Richard was astonished to find Doc already inside. Realizing that Doc is going to kill him, Richard tries to persuade Doc by telling him about their closeness and positive moments in the past. However, Doc remained unpersuaded. It was because the result of Governor Richard's actions had made his friend and colleague named Billy die badly. Without hesitation, Doc promptly kills and decapitates Governor Richard. After removing the governor's head, Doc contacted Cuko to arrange a meeting. They then agreed on the meeting spot. Meanwhile, Cuko was on the phone with Doc when his comfort woman inadvertently entered the bathroom and spotted a small bound child, who turned out to be none other than Nell, Doc's daughter. Cuko, who saw that, immediately killed the comfort woman. Cuko then had to carry her body outside, where he encountered two suspicious-looking residents. However, Cuko didn't seem to care and continued to throw the woman's body into the rubbish bin. Despite his psychopathic tendencies, Cuko was still kind enough to offer Nell some food. A curious Nell then engaged Cuko in conversation, asking when Cuko first killed someone. Cuko revealed that he killed someone when he was 13. At that time, an older brother had insulted his mother by calling her an immoral woman. Cuko, unaffected by his mother's insults and ridicule, stabbed the older brother without feeling any guilt. From that point on, Cuko turned into a mobster when his stepfather invited him to join a Mexican cartel. Soon after, Cuko spotted the two motel occupants reporting him to the motel owner. In a hurry, Cuko got Nell into his car to drive away. When the two occupants approached him, Cuko not only killed the couple but also killed the motel owner, who was on the phone with the police reporting. This is enough to prove that Cuko is a ruthless person and will not hesitate to kill anyone who interferes with his goals. Upon arriving at the motel the next morning, Doc discovered a crime scene containing 4 allegedly murdered bodies. Realizing that this was Cuko's doing, Doc tried to get information from the local residents, who eventually found out that Cuko had gone to Mexico. Cuko decides to return to his home, the headquarters of the Mexican cartel indeed. Lo, the Mexican cartel boss, welcomes Cuko and Nell to his home. Lo was shocked that Cuko had kidnapped someone's child, which would only add trouble to his business and cartel group. But after all, Cuko is Lo's brother. Therefore, Lo had no choice but to imprison Nell here and never release her. Arriving at Lo's residence, Doc immediately handed over Governor Richard's head as Cuko requested. Lo struggled to explain the situation as he had no prior knowledge of it. Doc, believing he had followed Cuko's instructions, merely desired the immediate return of his daughter. However, Lo apologized for not being able to do that. The involvement of Doc and his daughter in this cartel issue raises concerns about potential disruptions to his business in the future. Cuko then leads Doc and his daughter to the park where they face execution as witnesses. To Cuko's surprise, Doc isn't a quitter, and Doc easily defeats Cuko with just one attack. After securing his daughter in the toilet, Doc began to slaughter the guards one by one until he reached the stairs leading upstairs. However, Lo cornered him first, pointing a gun at him. Little Dixie, Doc's daughter, unexpectedly saved him and gunned down the cartel leader when he had no chance to escape. Doc and his daughter stopped by a lake on the way back to the United States to dispose of the bodies. Doc also plans to escape the law and his brutal actions by scapegoating Lo, Cuko, and his cartel group. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.